Hello and welcome. My name is April Shwe-Paul and you are watching the Beta Gamma Sigma New Zealand Member Spotlight. The show is highlighting the lives and experiences of our fantastic members here in New Zealand and abroad. And today I am honoured to host our guest, Mark Barboza. He is a Senior Manager at PwC with a focus on transformation assurance, technology risk and operational resilience. So to give you a brief background into Mark, he is a passionate New Zealander at PwC's risk assurance practice based in Toronto, and his work in Canada has been twofold. He helps organizations undergoing digital transformation to understand where there is risk and to build confidence in what they are doing. He also helps organizations manage their technology risk and be operationally resilient. Mark has a diverse set of experiences in various industries, having served clients in the banking sector, insurance, food production, and infrastructure and tertiary education as well. And in addition to Canada and New Zealand, Mark's career has taken him to countries such as Singapore, Japan, Australia, Brazil, and Chile. Wow, I want to go to all those places one day too. And he says he's loved every moment of it, which I can see why, Mark. I would too. And Mark's satisfaction comes from building high-performing teams that go above and beyond for clients, and he also enjoys solving the big problems. In his spare time, he plays the acoustic guitar, reads a lot, and also follows the English Premier League. Mark, hello and welcome to BGS New Zealand Members Spotlight. It's so great to have you here.
Pleasure to be here as well, April. That was quite the introduction there, so thank you.
You're welcome. Very impressive things that you've done so far as well. Now, Mark, obviously in New Member Spotlight, it's all about highlighting the lives and experiences of our fantastic members, such as yourself, so that other BGS New Zealand members, those who are watching, can learn about others, build connections, and also foster a community spirit. So on that note, tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up, go to school, and what did you study in university?
Cool, no problem. So I was actually born and raised in Dubai, so a place which I had some really terrific memories of, and where I had experienced my formative years, if you like. We had then immigrated to New Zealand in 2003, where I had studied from year 11 onwards.
Nice.
I then went to the University of Auckland, where I had studied a commerce degree. I majored in information systems and in accounting.
Nice.
And then my fourth year, I went on to do my honours in information systems, where I wrote my dissertation on IT outsourcing.
Wow, gosh, very impressive studies that you've done as well. And did you face any challenges along the way with all that?
I think there are a couple of challenges which stood out in particular, and look, everybody goes through their own challenges, but I certainly remember arriving in New Zealand and trying to get sort of culturally immersed. Was probably quite tough in the first sort of 2 to 3 months, but then once I'd actually started at school and found myself friend circle and so on, it was actually relatively easy to be immersed. The second challenge that really kind of sticks for me is, whilst I studied, I was a full-time student at Auckland Uni, but I'd also held down a part-time job. I was actually very, I suppose, fortunate to work for Fonterra at the time.
Nice.
It initially started off as actually as a summer job straight out of school, but my responsibilities actually grew and grew and grew through university, to the point where I was doing, I was a full-time student, but I was also doing about 30 hours a week with Fonterra. So the time management was something that I always had to be really, really good at, and also wanted to make sure that my grades weren't suffering either. So it was definitely some pretty hard years over the 4 years that I was at university, but also sort of balancing work as well. And saying all of that, I was also really, really driven, quite I suppose passionate about what I was studying, but the type of work that I was doing as well.
Awesome. And I can definitely relate to both of those challenges, actually, because I came to New Zealand when I was younger as well. How old were you when you came to New Zealand?
I was 15.
Oh wow. Okay. Gosh, so you just got stuck into a whole new culture while you were going through your teenage years as well. So that could
Correct.
definitely be
Yeah.
challenging, yeah. Because then people would have already formed their friendships in that second or third year of high school. So wow, good on you. And obviously you've come out the other end doing really well. So you've overcome all those challenges by the looks of it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's no substitute for for good old fashioned, I think, hard work. I
Yeah.
look back and I think New Zealand's really blessed me with plenty of opportunity.
Hmm.
Certainly in an academic sense and in a professional sense as well. If I think back, a lot of the growth that I've had in my career has been through just in many ways the agility and that work offered me, certainly in New Zealand, where I had worked in a number of different areas and gained experience in a number of different industries. Where
Hmm.
one thing you realize when you're in a larger market is that you tend to specialize and go deeper a lot earlier on in your career.
Yeah.
So the fact that I had really good breadth in my career quite early on, in New Zealand in particular, has really been an advantage for me here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Mark, obviously you are a part of Beta Gamma Sigma, which is the top graduates of AUT. So where do you get your determination, passion, and energy to succeed from? What drives you?
Oh, good question. I think, right from a young age, I've always been, a bit of an achiever. I've always kind of set goals for myself and had this long-term kind of plan or vision that I've, quietly sort of chipped away at. I think my passion and energy comes from two things in particular. One is, if I think about, because I'm goals orientated or goal orientated, I figure out what I'd like to achieve, a few years out, and I quietly sort of chip away at it. And the second thing that I draw quite a lot of energy from is just this ability to solve complex problems. That mental kind of stimulation that it gives me.
Mm.
It's almost what's the word that I'm looking for? It there's something really, I think, subconscious within me that actually just wants to get to the end and get to a solution, and
Mm.
that really drives me.
Awesome. I love that. Love that answer. And obviously, talking about drive, you now live in Toronto, Canada. So what led you to move there with PwC?
Oh, so for the longest time, I had really wanted to do the quintessential Kiwi OE, but where a lot of my peers and friends were heading off to London, I always was really drawn to North America in particular.
Mm.
What sort of led me to move here, it's a bit of a long-winded story, but I had worked with PwC in Singapore in 2014, and I've got a sort of a taste of living and working overseas, and I really, really like that. Right from a young age, I'd always wanted to kind of crack the North American market and test myself in a bigger market to New Zealand.
Mm.
And I'd always been looking for the right opportunity, whether it was in the United States or here in Canada. The opportunity with PwC in Canada came along. It was just, quite frankly, right place, right time, right set of circumstances.
Mm.
There are a few things that drew me to Canada in particular. One, from a personal perspective, I've got a little bit of a family connection here, so that's really helped in terms of kind of
Nice.
getting settled and immersed and so on.
Yeah.
The second thing is its proximity. So it's
Mm.
proximity to the United States, and that you serve a number of clients here that have a big Canadian presence, but also have a big presence over the United States. So you sort of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
The advantage, though, is that Canada is culturally very similar to New Zealand. So it ticked a
Yes.
number of boxes for
Yeah.
me in that respect. The third thing, I think, was, Canada was and still is investing pretty significantly in technology and artificial intelligence, and
Mm.
a number of things which are being done here, where you've got institutions and startups and so on that are really leading a lot of the global thinking around emerging technology. And I really wanted to be sort of close to all of that as well. So it was a combination of all of those factors which really drew me here.
Wow, awesome. And also talking about your time at PwC as well, your LinkedIn profile shows that you've been working with them for 11 years now, moving from graduate associate to senior manager, which is so impressive. So tell us about your time at PwC and your challenges and successes that you've had there. You've touched on some of those successes. So yeah, just elaborate a bit more for us. That would be awesome to hear.
Sure. So I had joined PwC as a graduate in 2010. It was it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Truthfully, it's the firm has blessed me with a career that's taken me to a number of different countries and exposed me to a number of different industries and a number of different problems. So it's given me a lot of confidence, I think, to be able to be so interchangeable, I think, and to be able to demonstrate and test myself against that over and over again. That's also been, so whilst that's been, one of the areas that I draw quite a lot of inspiration and confidence from, it was actually also a challenge at the same time. So when I'm immersing myself in a new practice area or in a brand new industry, there's a lot of lingo that you need to pick up to be able to both talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yes.
And that upskilling or that learning curve is really tough when you're down here, but it starts to be really exciting and energizing the more you move up. So that's certainly been one of the challenges that I've had to I think experience, but also build muscle in terms of being able to get better at over time. And now it's just totally second nature to me.
Wow.
So that's certainly been a challenge. The other challenge that I can think of is, I've obviously opted to second here, and when you move into a new office, you've got to, reestablish your own kind of personal brand, and go off and identify your clients and build a rapport with them, and so on. So that all does take quite a lot of time. But once you've done that and realized that, and in many ways tested yourself and challenge yourself with that, it's actually quite rewarding to see the benefits and the outcomes of all of that.
Awesome. And also, you also moved there during COVID too, so that must have been a bit of a challenge as well in itself.
Yeah, it's certainly not something that I had envisaged up front. Needless to say, I had moved here in July 2019, so fortuitously just before COVID, and I had 6 months of relative normal. I was back in New Zealand for Christmas that year, and when I got back to Canada, I had roughly 3 months of commuting actually to Ottawa on a client sort of project. But then, yeah, that's when my Canadian experience definitely became quite different. So I've actually been working remotely since March of last year. So it's now been about 13 months.
Gosh.
It's definitely been an exercise in resilience, but also I think one where you look back at remote working, and it's just incredible what you can achieve working remotely.
Yes.
I have yet to set foot in the office since literally March last year, and in that time delivered full-blown client projects, delivered workshops, proposals, pitches, coach staff, run training sessions, you name it. And it's really incredible what you can achieve virtually. Yeah.
Wow, great. I think that speaks a lot about your adaptability and also your flexibility and your ability to have resilience in those times. Because some people can just, throw in the towel and go, you know what, I'm going to try and fly back to New Zealand. This is just too hard. But you've stuck it through, and you've also had a lot of successes along the way. So I'm so glad to hear that as well. And on a personal side, there has been a lot of learnings for you while you've been there. So can you tell us a bit about those learnings that you've had?
Sure. So one of the best decisions I had made is, after the pandemic was declared, actually on that Saturday, I went off and I bought a guitar.
Oh.
And that became my COVID thing, so to speak. So it's it's really given me something to channel my passion and sort of energy into. I did actually, just prior to COVID, also start taking lessons, which I now do again completely virtually. But it's really given me something to channel a lot of my free time into as well. And it's become a thing now where I, literally wake up every morning and I put in about 45 minutes on the guitar to make sure
Wow.
make sure I've got my practice in. So that's been one thing.
Nice.
The second thing that I sort of set myself as a bit of a goal was to upskill and make sure I was continuing my own kind of professional and personal development. So last summer I had written my exam to be a professional Scrum Master, which is an agile qualification that a number of our clients in many ways like to see here, and it teaches you a really cool set of principles to be able to apply on projects. So that was something that I had also decided to do during COVID.
Nice. That's very productive. And maybe next time we have you on, you'll play something for us. Just kidding. I was going to put you on the spot and say, members, Mark's got a performance at the end of this interview for us. No, I won't make you do that. But reflecting in general as well, what has been some of your proudest accomplishments when you look back?
I'm one of those people that actually, perhaps embarrassingly, I very rarely stop to smell the roses. I'm actually often just mentally just on to the next thing. So if I really kind of think back, I think the fact that my career has taken me to a number of different countries and I've been able to both challenge and test myself in those in a number of different working environments has been really, really cool and really, really rewarding. I must admit it's something that I wanted to do from quite a young age. I'd always had this, in many ways, this vision or this dream of working in a number of different countries. So it's been an accomplishment for me to be able to have done that or realize that.
Awesome.
That's certainly one. And then the second one, it's probably more recent, but it's definitely the guitar. I mean, this time last year, I had barely even picked up a guitar, whereas now I can probably put out about 20 to 30 songs. Not very well, don't get me wrong, but it's to have gone from zero to that really fills me with a lot of happiness and joy. Yeah,
that's amazing. Good on you. I think instruments are so hard to learn, so that's so cool that you've picked it up, and it's also, I guess, therapeutic for you in lockdown too, because you're able to foster this new skill during that time. So that's amazing. And so, Mark, I can clearly tell you're very ambitious yourself. And so, what are some future goals and ambitions that you have at the moment?
Oh, okay. Good question. So I've got two that are really top of mind for me. So from in a professional sense, I've always wanted to be in a role that's impactful on a global level, and to be recognized as a leading thinker for a certain topic. So that's something that is an aspiration of mine, for which I'm trying, and working really hard to credentialize myself in a couple of different areas here in Canada, but also thinking about what sort of education would back that up. But that's something that's really in my psyche as a goal that I'm working towards over the next few years. The second one is really continuing this thread around music, where I really am passionate about the guitar, and what I'd like to do in a few years' time is get a small band sort of going. Nothing serious, obviously, but to the extent I can go off and find a few like-minded people and record a few songs or an EP. I think that would just be seriously cool.
Wow. Yes, definitely make sure you share that with me and the BGS members in the future. We'd love to hear. And we'd love to support your music as well when you do that. That sounds awesome. And also, having now gone through everything you've gone through and all the challenges and successes that you've had in your life so far, if you were to have any words of wisdom that you would share to your younger self, what would that be?
I think a couple of things. I think, one of the things I look back and really sort of reflect on is, everybody's running, I think, their own marathon, or everybody's running their own race. That's something that I've really come to realize and appreciate. The reason I say that is because, you know, I've actually decided to, or I've opted to move to Canada actually relatively late in my career. You know, the ideal time probably would have been, you know, when I was in, you know, year 3 or year 4 at PwC. In saying that, though, you know, the fact that it actually took me longer for, you know, for the move to actually eventuate also meant that I could be really picky or choosy with the right role. And I really look back, and I certainly don't regret the decision. And the pandemic hasn't sort of soured the experience for me here in Canada. And
Good.
I draw a lot of confidence from that, because I put a lot of thought and energy into this move. And, you know, the fact that the pandemic happened has probably even made it all the more memorable and interesting, actually.
Yes.
So that kind of word of wisdom around everybody's running their own race is really, really kind of powerful for me at the moment. The second word of wisdom, I think, is around, you know, this piece around passion and purpose. You know, I truly love what I do, and I actually like to focus my energy on just a few things, because, you know, that means I'm not sort of spread thin. But it also then contributes to this notion of me of not necessarily work-life balance. My views around work-life integration. So, you know, in working on things and doing things that I'm truly passionate about, you know, I actually don't mind clocking the hours for that, because that is, and those two things in particular have, you know, have really been sort of valuable words of wisdom in my view.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mark, for that amazing words of wisdom. I think a lot of young people definitely need that words of wisdom as well. So thanks so much for sharing it with the BGS members. So what does being a member of Beta Gamma Sigma mean to you, Mark?
I think certainly for me, you know, BGS is a brand, you know, and for somebody to, you know, qualify for BGS, you know, they would need to be certainly academically very, very good. And I think that's what I immediately recognize when I see that somebody is a BGS member, you know, and it immediately represents to me that they're smart and they're talented, and, you know, they were academically very, very good at university. And I think there's you know, that provides a level of commonality between all BGS members, which I think is really quite cool.
Awesome. Love that. Thanks for sharing that. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with our members that we haven't covered yet?
Nothing that I could think of, April. You've asked me a jolly good set of questions there.
Amazing. Great. Well, Mark, thank you so very much for being on the BGS New Zealand Member Spotlight. You certainly have had such an impressive set of experiences in your life and such wisdom that's come through that I know that all the BGS members watching will definitely benefit from as well. And also, if anybody wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way that they can do that?
LinkedIn would be the way to go. If you pop me, you know, an invitation, and you take the time to customize it and tell me a little bit about yourself, you know, I certainly look forward to connecting that way.
Awesome. Once again, Mark, thank you so much for being on the Member Spotlight. I really do appreciate it, and I've really enjoyed our time talking today as well. And to our members, thanks for watching this interview. And if you would like to be on BGS New Zealand Member Spotlight, let us know. Our contact details are in the description below. And until next time, take care and see you soon.